She never imagined that one trip could turn her world upside down. For Maya, the invitation to join a luxury cruise felt like a miracle, a once-in-a-lifetime chance that someone from a modest life could never normally afford. She had worked tirelessly as a waitress, saving every penny, and the thought of spending a week surrounded by glamour and ocean views gave her a sense of escape she craved deeply. When she first stepped onto the massive vessel, her breath caught at the sheer beauty of it. The glittering chandeliers in the lobby, the marble floors, the laughter of wealthy travelers dressed in designer clothes. She felt like an imposter. Her simple sundress a contrast to the elegance around her, but she whispered to herself that this was her moment to live a dream, even if it only lasted a short while. Maya spent the first day wandering, exploring every corner of the ship, fascinated by how endless it seemed. She sat quietly on the deck, watching the sea, when she accidentally bumped into a man she hadn't noticed approaching. His tall figure nearly blocked the sunlight. She looked up to see sharp eyes, a gentle smile, and an air of confidence that instantly unsettled her. He apologized first, his voice deep yet calm, asking if she was all right. She nodded quickly, embarrassed, expecting him to brush her off and walk away like others had done before, but he didn't. Instead, he lingered, asking her if she was enjoying the cruise. Maya tried to answer casually, but something about his presence made her nervous. He wasn't overly polished like the rich travelers she'd seen flaunting their status. He was charming in a subtle, almost humble way, which only left her more curious about who he was. That evening, the cruise hosted a grand dinner, and Maya reluctantly attended, sitting in the far corner, so she wouldn't feel out of place. The hall shimmered with laughter and clinking glasses, and to her surprise, the same man appeared again, this time across the room. He noticed her instantly, his eyes softening as they met hers. She quickly looked away, cheeks burning, but she couldn't deny the spark that lingered in the air. Over the next few days, their paths crossed more often than coincidence should allow. Each time, he made an effort to speak to her. Small conversations that grew longer, sprinkled with gentle humor and questions about her life. She found herself laughing more freely than she had in years. Maya never asked him about his background, though curiosity gnawed at her. He seemed too composed, too confident to be just another tourist. But he never bragged or hinted at wealth. He treated her like she mattered, like she wasn't invisible in a sea of luxury, and that was enough for her. Their bond deepened quickly, though Maya tried to remind herself that it was just a cruise, a passing connection that would dissolve once the ship reached the port again. Yet her heart betrayed her caution, racing each time he drew near, aching when he left her side. One evening, a storm rolled across the horizon, and the celebration on board ended early. Guests retreated to their cabins, but Maya found herself restless, drawn to the open deck despite the rain. There he was again, standing against the railing, staring into the dark waters. They laughed about the wild weather, both pretending not to notice how close they had drawn together under the flickering lights. Their conversation grew serious, peeling back layers of vulnerability neither had shared before. He confessed to feeling trapped by expectations, while she admitted to fearing a life that would pass by unnoticed. In that charged silence, the attraction that had been building between them finally broke free. That night, Maya surrendered to feelings she couldn't explain. It was intense, raw, and overwhelming. A moment of passion that made her believe, even briefly, that destiny had brought them together. But when the morning light seeped into the room, she awoke to an empty bed. No note, no goodbye, just silence. Her heart sank. She tried searching for him on the ship, asking around casually, but no one seemed to know who he was. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. She felt foolish, used, and deeply hurt, convincing herself that she had been nothing more than a fleeting distraction for a stranger who had likely moved on without a second thought. When the cruise ended, Maya stepped back into her ordinary world, carrying the weight of disappointment. She buried herself in work, tried to erase his memory, but his face haunted her, appearing in dreams she couldn't control. Weeks passed before her body betrayed her with signs she couldn't ignore: dizziness, nausea, missed cycles. She brushed it off at first, refusing to believe what her instincts already whispered. Finally, fear drove her to the doctor, and the confirmation shattered her reality. She was pregnant, Her hands trembled as she clutched the test results, tears streaming down her face. Questions raced through her mind. How could she raise a child alone? How could she explain to her family when she couldn't even reveal the father's name? Shame mixed with fear, but beneath it all was a small flicker of determination. She couldn't undo what happened, but she could choose to embrace it. She decided to keep the baby, no matter how difficult it would be. The following months became a blur of exhaustion and quiet resilience. Maya worked long shifts at the cafe, her growing belly hidden under loose uniforms until she could no longer conceal it. Friends and co-workers whispered, asking about the father, but she brushed off their questions with vague answers. At night, she lay awake, hand resting protectively on her stomach, wondering what kind of life awaited her child. The image of the stranger never left her. His smile, his voice, the way he made her feel like the only person in the world. She hated him for leaving, yet a part of her still longed to see him again, if only to ask why. Fate, however, had a strange way of answering questions. One afternoon, as she served coffee at the cafe, two wealthy customers discussed a man they described as larger than life, a billionaire ship magnate who owned one of the most prestigious cruise lines. They laughed about his mysterious lifestyle, saying his name, Ethan Cole. The moment Maya heard it, her breath caught. The name struck like lightning. She quickly wiped the table, pretending not to listen, but every word sank deep. Later that night, she searched online, her heart pounding as she scrolled through articles. When she saw his picture, the screen nearly slipped from her hands. It was him, the stranger she had spent a night with. The man she thought had abandoned her was not just another passenger. He was the owner of the very ship she had sailed on. Shock consumed her. Why hadn't he told her? Was she just a secret he needed to hide? Or had he even cared at all? Fear crept in. What would happen if he found out about the baby? Would he deny it? Or worse, try to take the child from her? Her world spun with confusion. For the first time, Maya realized she wasn't just carrying the child of a stranger. She was carrying the child of a man whose life was so far above hers that their worlds were never meant to collide. She never thought her entire future would change on a single trip. When Maya received a discounted ticket for a luxury cruise, she believed it was a small reward after years of working long hours in a small cafe, serving customers with a smile while carrying silent exhaustion. The cruise felt like magic, a chance to live among the rich, even if only for a week. As she boarded, the glitter of chandeliers and polished marble nearly blinded her. She felt like a visitor in someone else's dream, her simple clothes a reminder of the world she truly came from. But she promised herself to enjoy the ocean breeze, the sunsets, and the break from her monotonous life. Maya tried to remain unnoticed among glamorous travelers draped in jewelry and designer fabrics. She wandered the deck alone, awed by the horizon stretching endlessly before her. That was when she collided with someone. A tall man steadied her before she stumbled, his touch firm yet gentle. His eyes were sharp, studying her with curiosity rather than judgment, and his smile disarmed her instantly. He apologized first, though it wasn't necessary, and asked if she was all right. She nodded, embarrassed by her clumsiness, expecting him to leave. Yet he didn't. He lingered, asking her if she was enjoying the cruise. His voice was calm, warm, and carried a strange pull. Something about him unsettled her, though not in a way that pushed her away. Over the next few days, she saw him again and again. At dinner, across the room, his gaze found hers, making her heart race until she looked away. At breakfast in the lounge, on the upper deck, their paths kept crossing. Each time, he spoke to her, not with arrogance but with genuine interest, asking about her hometown, her dreams, and even her favorite books. She found herself laughing easily around him, forgetting she was a nobody among the wealthy. He never mentioned his background, never boasted of money or status. He seemed like just another traveler, curious and kind. But beneath his charm was an air of confidence she couldn't quite place, something that made him stand out from the rest. Though she tried to guard her heart, the connection grew stronger. She began looking forward to seeing him, wondering if he would appear when she walked onto the deck. He was mysterious yet familiar, reserved yet attentive. With him, She felt visible in a world that often ignored her. It frightened her, the way he made her feel, because she knew this trip would end, and with it, whatever fragile bond was forming. But the heart rarely listens to reason. One stormy night, when thunder cracked above and waves battered the ship, Maya found herself wandering outside, unable to sleep. There he was again, leaning against the railing, hair damp from the rain, staring into the sea. They joked about the weather, both pretending not to notice how close they had moved together. The conversation turned deeper. He spoke of feeling trapped by responsibilities he didn't choose, a life of constant pressure. She admitted her fears of living unnoticed, of working her whole life without ever touching her dreams. In that moment of shared vulnerability, walls crumbled, and they surrendered to a pull they could no longer deny. The night was a blur of warmth, passion, and unspoken promises. For the first time in years, Maya felt alive, cherished, and desired. But when she awoke the next morning, sunlight streaming into the cabin, the bed beside her was empty. No note, no trace of him. Panic spread as she searched, asking around discreetly, but no one seemed to know who he was. It was as if he had vanished. Confusion twisted into pain, then anger. She convinced herself she had been foolish, just a passing distraction for a stranger who disappeared without a second thought. The cruise ended and she returned home, carrying a broken heart and unanswered questions. Back in her small apartment, Maya tried to bury the memory. She threw herself into work, telling herself it had meant nothing, that she was nigh to believe otherwise. Yet his face haunted her, his voice replayed in her mind at night. Weeks slipped by until her body betrayed her. Nausea in the mornings, dizziness during shifts, and then the absence of her cycle. Fear gripped her, but denial held her back from facing the truth. When she finally gathered the courage to visit the doctor, the confirmation left her trembling. She was pregnant. Maya clutched the test results with shaking hands, tears streaming down her cheeks. She whispered to herself that it couldn't be real, but deep down, she knew. A storm of emotions consumed her. Shock, fear, shame, and a strange flicker of joy. She thought of her family, her friends, the questions she would face. She didn't even know his last name, only fragment of conversation, and the memory of his touch. How could she explain this? Who would believe her? For days, she cried in silence, trapped between despair and determination. Slowly, she accepted the reality. She was carrying a child, and despite her fear, she felt an instinct to protect it. She decided she wouldn't run. She wouldn't give in to shame. She would raise the baby, even if alone. Her days turned into a blur of long cafe shifts, hiding her growing belly under oversized aprons, lying to co-workers who noticed her fatigue. Nights were lonelier than ever, spent with her hand resting on her stomach, whispering hopes and fears to the life inside her. Yet no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't erase him from her thoughts. She hated him for leaving, yet yearned for answers, for closure, for the truth of why he disappeared without a word. One afternoon, while wiping tables at work, she overheard two wealthy customers laughing about a man named Ethan Cole. They spoke of him with admiration, calling him the powerful owner of one of the most prestigious cruise lines in the world. Maya froze, her breath caught in her throat. The name rang like thunder in her ears. That night, unable to resist, she searched his name online. Articles, interviews, photographs filled her screen. And when she saw his face, her heart stopped. It was him. The man she thought was a stranger was not only real, but powerful beyond anything she had imagined. He hadn't been just another traveler. He was the owner of the very ship she had sailed on. The discovery shattered her. Why had he hidden the truth? Why hadn't he told her who he was? Did he plan to keep her in the dark all along? The pieces twisted together, and the questions grew heavier. Did he even remember her, or was she just one night in a sea of forgotten moments? Fear seeped in, sharper than ever. What if he learned about the baby? Would he deny it? Would he use his power to take the child away? Her ordinary life and his extraordinary world were never meant to collide. Yet fate had bound them together in the most unexpected way.